Let's try that again, shall we? Hello, everybody. Welcome to Calls. This is the 2023 Dell Match Play Initial Research Show. Another very abysmal performance by me this weekend in terms of betting, not only for the Valspar, but it seems like my brackets are shot to hell as well. Hopefully you had a lot more success than I did this past weekend for the Valspar. If you did, please jump in chat or let me know via social media so I can shout you out. I always want to shout out members of the community that do well. Hopefully you saw the note on social media that I was not going to be able to do the Friday night stream. Unexpectedly had to go and travel out of town. So I will plan on being available this Friday for some baseball. Baseball is right around the corner. In fact, I believe the U.S. and Cuba are playing right now in the semis of the World Baseball Classic. So I'm looking forward to looking at some baseball metrics for the upcoming season that is rapidly approaching. Next week, actually, will be the start of the baseball season. So looking forward to that. So hopefully you saw that note that there was no stream this past Friday. Again, just not a very good performance for me this week. Had most of the right players, did not make the optimal lineup, and there were a few suggestions that just did not come through. Augusto Nunez, let's see who else. Matt Fitzpatrick, I used a couple times or a couple of different lineups. Tommy Fleetwood was okay, but he was pretty chalky. I was pretty high on Spieth, but not high enough. And Taylor Moore, I was nowhere near. So such is the way things go sometimes. We're going to try and turn it around for the Dell Match Play and more brackets for our fun and consumption. So let's get into it. All statistics provided tonight and every night are from fantasynational.com. It is simply the best tool out there for your money. It's going to make you a much smarter gambler and a much better DFS player. There are a lot of great tools out there. I simply believe Fantasy National is the best. So go check them out. Then you won't have to listen to an idiot like me every week, although I'm grateful that you do. In the description to the video, there are links to all of my social media. This is Twitter and Instagram, where I'm going to be honest, I don't know how much research I'm going to have for the Dell Match Play this week. And there is a second tournament as well, so I will cover that in the outro, if you will. But not sure how much research I'm going to have this week. But my betting cards will certainly be up on Twitter. So if you want to see my betting cards and usually my research throughout the week, give me a follow at those two social media platforms. And then my link to the Twitch channel, or the link to my Twitch channel, is also below. This is where I do all of my in-depth research. It's a much more laid-back stream. Music going in the background. Just very intense into the data. Even do a little bit of gaming, some other content as well. So if you are interested in that, give me a follow over at Twitch. And then finally, we're live. Chat is open. I do see you, Joanne. I'll get to you here in a second as I get through the intro here. But chat's open. I want to hear from you all. How much do you know of the Dell Match Play? Do you know that this is technically the last year for the Match Play as of right now? The PGA Tour did not come to an agreement with Austin Country Club. So right now, this is the last match play on the PGA Tour schedule for the foreseeable future. So what are you looking forward to? Who are you leaning towards early on this week? All of that good stuff. And of course, anything that you want to brag about in terms of the Valspar, please jump in chat, as if you have anything to brag about, you're going to be more successful than me. But we're here again for the Dell Match Play. So let's do our initial research for the 2023 Dell Match Play. And we're going to start, as we always do, on a Sunday evening over at the GCSAA Tournament Fact Sheet. Joanne did not do very well this last week, hoping to do better this week. Right players, but wrong lineups. That is exactly how I feel. Of course, Adam Hadwin being number 2, I believe, in my rankings. missing the cut certainly hurt, but I had my fair share of Tommy Fleetwood. I even had some Jordan Spieth. Sam Burns, who I was really, really high on. Seemingly he was going to be the unique 10K. I feel like I had a good mix of players. Now, certainly I had enough wrong last week. My Augusto Nunez suggestion, Robbie Shelton, I had enough wrong that even if I were to have a good lineup or so, it would have been a pretty mixed week. But I just did not have the right combination. I only had one 6 of 6. It was Fleetwood and Wyndham Clark, and one other player that was really, really high up there, Ben Martin, and he kind of fell back today, which really, really hurt. Nick Taylor also. Nick Taylor did play pretty well, and I was pretty high on. But I'm with you. I had, I think, a good mix of players. I think I had enough of the right players. I could have made some money or made some correct lineups. Just didn't fall that way for me. Sorry to hear that on your end as well. But yes, we are looking for a quick turnaround to another 2-tournament week this week. And another feature event on the PGA Tour for the Dell Match Play in Austin, Texas. So we have completed the Florida Swing. We are now moving to Texas for the Texas Swing, I guess, if you want to call it, or the Texas portion of the schedule. We are at Austin Country Club in Austin, Texas. This is measured as a par 71, unofficially at 7,100 yards. And I'm going to tell you that's on the longer end. This course is very short. A lot of times it will play into the mid 7,000, so we are absolutely going to be looking at some short course metrics this week. Something else to note for Austin Country Club, it is a Pete Dye design. Now, it was renovated by Rod Whitman in 2015, but it is originally a Pete Dye design, so we're going to have a lot of architect filters to look through this week as well with another Pete Dye design. The stimp runs at 12. Generally, these are pretty fast, especially since the winds can pick up in Texas. So these are generally pretty fast, if not lightning greens, although you will see that data in Fantasy National is pretty sparse, and there's an explanation why. But generally pretty fast to lightning speed greens. The average green size, right at tour average, depending on some sources. It's either 5,500 or 6,000 square feet. Now the key here, acres of fairway, only 25. These fairways can get pretty narrow, especially on the front 9. Kind of similar in terms of the Kapalua of the Century Tournament of Champions, where you have two kind of distinct 9s. Sorry, again, I'm going to just center that camera. Where at Kapalua, you're going up the mountain on the front 9 and then down the mountain on the back 9. The front 9 here at Austin Country Club is tree-lined. It's pretty narrow. While you do have room to shape some shots, anything wayward is going to have tree trouble. Where on the back 9, it's much more open. The back 9 kind of circles the lake that is at Austin Country Club. So you have a tree-lined fairway 9 and kind of an open 9, if you will. And the open 9 is the back 9. Probably most notable is the drivable par 4, the 12th, I believe it is. You also have the par 5, 13th, runs right around the lake. You are correct. Kuchar does play very well here. I do have some statistics for the players, and we'll get into that later into the show, but definitely want to gravitate your attention towards the fairway and the narrowness of them. There are 7 holes with water in play. Again, majority of that is on the back 9, which is designed around the lake at Austin Country Club. The greens, we've seen this a few times now. This is the Poa Trivialis again. So we just came off of that at the Valspar. We were at that at the Players. A lot of putting metrics recently that we can take a look at from Valspar and from Sawgrass and see if there's any overlap here. The collars, rye as well. Fairways are rye and fescue, and the rough is Bermuda, but it is only 2 inches long, so it is not deep and hard to play out of. The difficulty with this particular rough is that it is very inconsistent in the sense that you can get some flyer lies, as what they call them. It's just kind of hard to judge how the ball is going to come out of the rough here at Austin Country Club. And with the greens being a little on the small side, maybe average at biggest, then hitting greens is going to be a pretty big deal. Some notes here. An ice storm in early February damaged more than 1,200 trees. December freeze resulted in covered greens for 6 days. So take that what you will. I don't know how much that's going to really factor in for the week this week. But overall, we are looking at a very short course. We're going to be looking at some short course metrics. Pete Dye Designs will have plenty in the Architect filter to look at. We're going to be looking at Poa Trivialis again, the same 4 tournaments that we've talked about past couple of weeks. The American Express, the Waste Management, the Valspar, the Players, and the Valero Texas Open. So same green surface here. The rough is not long, but kind of difficult to play out of if you're not familiar with Bermuda rough, and then fairways are pretty narrow. So let's look at Austin Country Club from a GCSAA tournament fact sheet. Before we go over to Fantasy National, we're actually going to move to Microsoft Excel, and there are a couple of things that I want to bring up for you all. First, and let's see if I can bring this out a little bit. Looks like my camera decided not to focus since the graph was zoomed in quite a bit. Yeah, well, probably better viewing for you all anyway. This is the composition chart that normally is in Fantasy National. Again, we have very limited data for the Dell match play, because since it is match play, not stroke play, although there is shot link there, we don't collect the data because match play is it's a completely different format, completely different strategy. So it would not be an accurate assessment to gauge and to get statistics at a match play event. So we just don't do it. So with that, here are the whole yardages and the whole composition here at Austin Country Club. You have 4 par 3s, 1 from 0 to 150. You have 2 from 175 to 200. And you have 1 200 to 225 in terms of par 3s. You have a 0 to 350 par 4, again the drivable par 4 12th. You have 4 from 350 to 400, 2 from 400 to 450, and 3 450 to 500 par 4s. No long par 4s, no 500 plus par 4s. And then the par 5s, you do have a very short par 5. It's 498 on the scorecard, and then all of the others fall between 550 and 600. So there is a look at the whole composition here at Austin Country Club. Again, with the estimated procs, this is the attempt at recreating the approach shot distribution. And what this is going off of is from Pro Visualizer. I believe I've shown that a couple of times on stream. If you would like me to do that for Austin Country Club, I will do that tomorrow night. I did not have that prepared for tonight. You see the bevy of 75 to 100 yard approaches. This is a little bit deceiving, as any par 5 in Pro Visualizer is set up as a 3-shot hole, and these are professionals. They're going to be going for the green in 2 on these par 5s, especially in a match play format. So you can move 4 of these 75 to 100s to the 200 plus. So really, you still have a fair share of holes with a 75 to 100 yard approach. The drivable par 4, some players will choose not to take on the water. They will hit an iron off the tee and then leave themselves with, again, a wedge in hand. And then there are quite a few short par 4s that are 75 to 100 or 100 to 125 yard approaches. So really, you should have about 3 here, and then 2, 2, 2, 1, and 4. All 4 of the 200 plus being for the par 5s, with these pros attacking par 5s and 2. So not sure we're going to be looking at anything in terms of proximity, since we don't have the data, and it seems to be pretty evenly spread throughout the course and throughout the yardage range. But I did want to bring up these 2 graphs for you in terms of my ability or lack thereof to recreate them in Excel. I will keep that in the background. Let's see if I can get this camera focused while I change. There we go. All right, so now we'll move to Fantasy National, and let's take a look at the course breakdown here at Austin Country Club. Scheffler, another one that loves playing in Texas. Yes, absolutely. You are correct with that. And his performance here at the match play in his 2 years probably needs no introduction or explanation, but a first and a second. It's very, very strong here. Scheffler being from Texas, Spieth being from Texas, a lot of players from the state of Texas or nearby just have a lot of exposure and a lot of ability and love playing in Texas. So looking at the scorecard here for Austin Country Club, first thing I like to do, 9th and 10th most difficult holes, try to figure out where par is. You can see the 9th most difficult still placed under par. The 5th most difficult hole, the 4th most difficult hole, 4th most difficult hole still plays under par, 600ths, and then the 3rd most difficult plays to 400ths over. So you can see all the birdies that are available here. Again, it's match play. It's very exciting for viewers because these professionals will just pin seek. They don't care if they make a bogey on a hole unless the match kind of dictates it, where they are and the scoring and all that. Generally speaking, bogey be damned, you're trying to get a birdie to win the hole. So there's a lot of birdies at this course and quite a few eagles as well. So we'll be looking at birdies or better. Could be looking at some eagles perhaps. But you see just the propensity of scoring opportunities here, especially since even the 4th most difficult hole still plays to under par. I do want to correct myself. I kept saying the drivable par 4 12th and then the par 5 13th. I mixed those up. So it's the par 5 12th, the drivable par 4 13th. My apologies, but I do want to correct myself. But there's a look at the scorecard here at Austin Country Club. It's easy. You got more than a half a shot under par, 3/4 of a shot under par. Again, more than a half a shot under par, almost a half a shot under par. Lots of 1/4 of a shot under par. Just a very, very easy course, and a lot of that is due to the format that the players are playing this week. Evening P, thanks for jumping in chat. Hopefully your week was a lot better than mine. Joanne and I have conversed in our misery. It sounds like we had a similar problem that each of us shared. We had the right players in the wrong composition or wrong lineup, and then the wager side was a disaster for me. Ben Griffin and Stephen Yeager, who was there for a little while, had a top 50 single entry tourney lineup. Well, congratulations, P. Very well done. Very well done. Glad to hear it. Glad to hear somebody in the community has had a successful week and weekend. It certainly wasn't me. You can tell that even March Madness hasn't gone my way as the fandom attire has already been put away for next season. Wyndham Clark, Mav. Mav was a solid choice. I was not going to take that gamble with his injury, but he played well. Gary Woodland. Look, if you playing Taylor Moore was a solid choice. I was nowhere near Taylor Moore. He had not been playing well. Congratulations on that. And then Jaeger, Nick Taylor, very solid choices. I had a win wager on Jaeger, and I was very high on Nick Taylor. So whether you got that from me or I confirmed it or whatever, but a very solid lineup there. No clue how I landed on Moore, to be honest. Hey. Sometimes it's what it takes. Sometimes you just kind of you got to get lucky. You got to get lucky. But congratulations, well done on a top 50 single entry contest. And you can see here, moving back to Fantasy National, you see we don't get any statistics. No strokes gained by shot type. No strokes gained by hole by par. Now we do get scoring distribution only because we know who wins a hole, what they scored. 22% birdies, 13% bogeys. The Eagles and the doubles, fairly similar. I think doubles slightly outweigh, but birdies. Just, we're going to try to go low. That's what you have to do to win holes, and to win your match, you got to get birdies. Pars generally don't win very many holes, and therefore the match. There's a look at Austin Country Club from a scorecard view. Again, my attempt in Excel to show you the graphical version, at least of the hole compositions and the estimated approach or proximity, if you will. Not a whole lot that we can cover tonight. We'll do what we can, but for this evening, first thing that I want to do, let me go ahead and set this time frame. Definitely going to be looking at all of 2022 because we're going to have some pretty specific filters. First one we're going to look at is short courses. This is 7,100 yards at most. So let's take a look at some short course metrics. So on courses that are less than 7,200 yards, your top performers since the start of 2022 have been Seamus Power, Patrick Cantlay, Russell Henley, Xander Schauffele, JT Poston, Taylor Montgomery, Brian Harmon, Keegan Bradley, Keith Mitchell, and Ben Griffin. Definitely going to be looking at some short course metrics this week. We're also going to be looking at some Pete Dye metrics. And I'm probably going to have to expand this timeline, although you do have a few rounds from players, but I do want to see if I can't get into the 20s for a few players. So, moving back to 2021, yeah, there we go. We still have some players that don't have stats, but to be honest, these players are alternates at the moment. But this is plenty of rounds. So, since the beginning of 2021, your top players on Pete Dye designs have been Shane Lowry, Sung Jae, Corey Connors, Brian Harmon, Scotty Scheffler, Patrick Cantlay, Victor Hovland, Terrell Hatton, Tony Finau, Siwoo Kim, and Colin Morikawa. Again, don't know how much we're going to do in terms of a mixed condition model for Pete Dye. Probably definitely going to be looking at some short course metrics. We should probably incorporate some Pete Dye, but this early in the week, not sure how I'm going to incorporate it yet. So just kind of want to look it over, get a feel for some of these players that might pop on quite a few of these metrics and whatnot. I'm going to erase the filters, and I clicked the wrong effing day, of course. We're going to go to the beginning of the PGA Tour season. In fact, you know what? let's just go to the beginning of this year, this calendar year. I think most players will have enough rounds for us to get a strong sense of how they're faring. I think there's enough data to be stable. So since the Century Tournament of Champions, essentially, or since the start of this calendar year, your top strokes gained approach players have been Tom Hoge, Max Homa, Scotty Scheffler, Tony Finau, Colin Morikawa, Jon Rahm, Tyrrell Hatton, Xander, Ricky Fowler, and Rory McIlroy. So a quick note on the players that are in the field this week. With it being match play, is 64 players. The top 75 are here this week. The others are not allowed to compete. They are at or on live. So the last player in the field, Ben Griffin, ranked 75th in the world as of the cutoff on Friday, which is a shame for Taylor Moore. I just looked at the OWGR. He has moved into the top 50, but since the cutoff was Friday, he is not in the tournament. But there's our top strokes gained approach players. Again, don't want to do too much with putting tonight. We'll do that tomorrow and take a look at the Poa Trivialis Overseed courses like we've done the past couple of weeks. Definitely some things we want to look at, though. Definitely some par 5 efficiency. You're going to have to get... you're going to have to score on these par 5s, perhaps even some eagles. So your best par 5 performers since the start of this calendar year, since 1/1/2023, have been Jon Rahm, Patrick Cantlay, Sung Jae, Tommy Fleetwood, Scotty Scheffler, Jordan Spieth, Xander, Colin Morikawa, Tyrrell Hatton, and Tony Finau. So make sure you give these players a boost or consider them pretty highly early on in your research this week. The only other metric that I want to take a somewhat of a look at tonight, let's look at birdies or better. And we're definitely going to be looking at this on short courses. We can't say easy, although technically the course is easy, but that's more of a condition of the format as opposed to the course. So let's take a look at birdies or better on short courses. And again, I'm going to have to go back to 2022 to get enough rounds, but your top birdies or better gained players since the start of 2022: Seamus Power, Patrick Cantlay, Taylor Montgomery, Cameron Young, Rory McIlroy, Tom Kim, Adams Vincent, Keegan Bradley, Ben Griffin, and Russell Henley. So there's a look at some of the metrics, or at least two of the metrics that I'm looking at to begin the week. Par 5s, birdies or better. Of course, I'm going to be looking at strokes gained approach. We'll take a look at Poa Trivialis putting tomorrow in the Data Dive show. Honestly, I haven't even clicked on this tournament history tab. So we can take a look here at the performance of these players. But you can see there's been no strokes gained total, as there's no stats to collect here. So we're just going to have to take a look. And, to be honest, I don't know how much this is going to help because it stopped at 2019. So instead of this, in fact, I'm going to close this out. I will keep Fantasy National up in case we want to take a look, but I am going to go to the strokes gained page view, if you will. Let's go to Microsoft Excel, and I have gathered what statistics I can for you all this evening in terms of of each player's performance here at Austin Country Club. Now, not necessarily at Match Play, but since Match Play moved to Austin Country Club in 2016, I went ahead and went back and grabbed each player's performance. Now, any player that is highlighted in orange is an alternate. So Bobby Mack is an alternate, Danny Willett, Thorbjorn Olesen, Brennan Todd, Oteg, so on and so forth. These players are alternates. They are not in the field yet, so I wanted to designate them for your viewing. But as you can see, your best average finisher in the field this week is Scotty Scheffler, your defending champion, and your runner-up in 2021. And yes, that is rounding, so technically his average finish is 1.5. Very, very solid at match play. Victor Paris, coming off a lackluster Valspar, I would say, he did finish in 4th in 2021. You have Chris Kirk, who's only played it once. Seamus Power has only played it once. But to your point, Joanne, of the players that have played it a consistent amount of times, let's say, how many years is this? 6? Let's say of the players who have played it at least 4 years, on a consistent basis, look who your top average finish is. It's Matt Kuchar. Now, he has not won since being at Austin Country Club, but there's only been 1 year he has failed to advance from the pods stage or the group stage. He's been in the quarterfinals, then he lost in the finals in 2019, and then he won the consolation match in 2021. Alex Noren is also somebody who has played very, very well at Austin Country Club in match play. He has failed to advance twice, but it was because he got beat out in playoffs. And last year, I believe he was 2-1. Somebody in his group was 3-0, but still another strong, showing. Then you have a 3rd place and a 5th place finish from Alex Noren. So very strong. Kevin Kisner, somebody who typically loves match play. Somebody else who really likes match play, Billy Horschel. John Rahm has been very good at Austin Country Club at least. Terrell Hatton has had 1 bad year at Austin Country Club. He had a half a point in 2021. Otherwise, he's been very good. He failed to advance in 2017, but then made it to the knockout rounds in 3 of the past 4 years. Patrick Cantley has been very solid, but never advanced into the knockout round, but just very solid. Let's see, Xander, also pretty darn solid. So what these are the for the year, and this is the finish that they had. So clearly, Scotty Scheffler won last year. Seamus Power made it to the quarterfinals, tied for 5th. Anybody that is inside the 16th or better, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 9 are the ones that made it out of the knockout, or made it into the knockout stage. Do you want me to color code that for you to make it easier to see if they made it to the knockout rounds or not? I just know that if they are 16th or better that they did, but I can highlight those for you if you would like. Just put it in chat and I will. Let's look at the other end and players who have not played well. Bezuidenhout has been very, very bad in his 2 tries here. Russell Henley, for as much as he is a good approach player, it just has been not good in match play. You can see he had 0 points last year. That's what this is, but 0 points last year, 1.5 the year before. He's averaged a 41st place finish. It's just not good. Jason Day won the first year that the match play moved to 2016, but look at his performance beyond that. It has been very bad. Shane Lowry, somebody who has consistently just struggled at match play here at Austin. Keegan Bradley has not fared well. Siwoo Kim has been, he was pretty good in 2018, making it to the knockout rounds. He was good last year. He went 2-1, but then he's got 3 years where it was pretty subpar. So this is the specific finish each year going back to 2016, since that is when the Dell Match Play came to Austin Country Club. Over here, This is the amount of points that they accrued in pool play. You have to have at least 2 points, except for the rarest of circumstances, to have a chance to move on. You can see Scotty Scheffler has moved on to the knockout stages with 2 points each year. Sometimes players don't make it to the knockout rounds, in the rare instance like Alex Noren with 2.5 sometimes. But you have to have at least 2. If you're getting 2 points in your group stage, you've done pretty well. So you can see I've got this sorted by average finish over here, but we can also take a look and sort by the players who have, or sort by the average points in pool play. That's column S, largest to smallest. So we'll ignore all the players that have not played. Your top point getter in pool play in the field this week is Alex Noren. He's averaged 2.5 points per year at the match play. Maverick McNeely at 2.5 last year got beat in a playoff. Who beat? Was it Zal? I think Zalatoris beat him. I think he was in Zalatoris' group last year. I could be wrong on that, but I think that's where that was. Again, Joanne, to your point, Matt Kuchar averages 2.4 in his 5 years here. Mackenzie Hughes has been very good in his 2 years here at the match play. Kevin Kisner. You have a bunch of players here who have averaged 2. Jordan Spieth. Again, to your point, Joanne, earlier in the show, Spieth plays very well here. Tyrrell Hatton has played very, very well here, with the exception of 2021 when he only had 0.5 point. John Rahm. Rory has played pretty darn well. 1.5, 1.5. That doesn't sound great, but 1.5, that can easily go one way or the other, and there's your 2 points. You're moving on in the group. So he's played pretty well here. Brian Harmon has generally played very well here. He did not last year. Billy Horschel, he struggled in 2016, but he's played very well. Patrick Cantlay has played very well in the group stages. Tommy Fleetwood has actually played pretty darn well in the group stages. He's only advanced 1 time, but he's played pretty darn well. He got beat in a playoff in 2017. He was 0.5 point away in 2019. So that is what I have gathered for you all in terms of match play performance. It is not an exact science, but it gives you an idea on who to look at early on this week, especially since the draw hasn't happened yet. The draw for the match play happens tomorrow at noon Eastern. So I will definitely have the bracket ready for you tomorrow night for the Data Dive show, and we'll be looking at some potential strategy a little bit on that. I will go ahead and preview for you the bracket that I have created for Tuesday night's show. We'll probably fill this in, or at least I'll fill this in and give you my predictions for this year's match play. I had a lot of fun with that last year, so I hope you decide to catch the show Tuesday evening, as I'll do the full DFS Tactics show. Don't worry, I'm not going to skip that, but I'll definitely be doing my predictions as well, and perhaps we can do a little bit of a community type deal here with some predictions. Would be pretty fun to do that. I'll think about try to think of a way to incorporate the community into it. But you see, I've got the bracket ready. I'll bring you back to this here as we sign off. But a reminder that the Dale Match Play starts Wednesday. So you have one less day to prepare, to get your lineups ready. Dell Match Play starts Wednesday morning. So you'll have group play Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and then the tournament bracket portion will be Saturday and Sunday. So we've got a lot to cover in a short amount of time this week. So tomorrow night's Data Dive show will be very, very data intensive. Looking forward to that. Again, the bracket or the pools will be out, so we'll be able to dissect and analyze each pod, if you will, and definitely go into some specific data points as I continue my research tomorrow. But there are 2 tournaments this week, so the shows won't end just on Tuesday evening. Wednesday night, there will be the Corrales full show. So a full slate of shows this week. Sunday, tonight, obviously. Monday, tomorrow, the Data Dive show for the Dell Match Play. Tuesday night will be the DFS Tactics and the Predictions show, or the Bracketology, if you will. I'll have a lot of fun with that. Wednesday night will be the Corrales Punta Cana full show. So a full set of a DFS slate this week. And then, again, apologies that I could not make or keep my Friday night stream. I had to go out of town. But as of right now, I am planning on being live this Friday night to do some baseball. So full slate of shows this week. Congratulations, P, on a very, very successful week in terms of DFS. Glad to hear somebody in the community had some success this weekend. I sure didn't. And thanks to Joanne as well for jumping into chat. Really appreciate it. Thanks to everyone else out there who tunes in, watches, listens, supports the channel by subscribing, commenting, liking the videos. I always appreciate it, even in the weeks that I lead you astray, don't do well myself. And we're going to try and turn it around this week for the Dell Match Play and for the Corrales. So we got 2 chances to turn it around this week. So for all of the wagers that you made this past week for the Valspar Championship, for all of the DFS contests that you entered this past week for the Valspar, and until I see you tomorrow night for the Data Dive show, may all your bets be profitable.